Okay, and we are officially live. So I'll go ahead and remove myself from the screen, and Andrea, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Andrea Akita. I'm the Director of Communities of Opportunity. And today we were brought together for Meeting the Moment. And in this moment, I will say that my heart is full, my spirit is uplifted, and my mind is working overtime. It's just really processing all of the incredible things that I've been hearing and learning today. And mostly in this moment, I'm overcome with gratitude. Um, we're in the first days of fall, and I'm going to be celebrating autumn every day, all year long. I want to say for the sessions that I was in, mil gracias to Victoria Garcia Tomayo for sharing a collective hug with us. And like Matt Ekoha Kayashi, I'm really inspired to light candles tonight for y'all and the work to illuminate really the brilliance that we've shared in this virtual space, all of the connections that we share. And while I've been asked to share some reflections, I really want to invite you all to share some of your reflections in the chat with each other, with all of us, something that you're taking away uh, after participating in your breakout sessions today, an intention or a name of someone that you're going to be thinking of taking with you and reflecting on. And so as you're putting those in the chat, I'll share some words that I heard and I'll be reflecting on, and I'll try to pick up some of the words that I'm seeing in the chat as well. But really, I heard about words of resilience and innovation, joy, spiritual rigor, principled struggle, genetic memory, liberation, belonging, humility, sustainability, compassion, multi-generational, igniting change, power, and abundant grace. I'm taking this with me as we continue our work and we build on the work. Next slide, please. And I want to acknowledge that it's really been our honor at Communities of Opportunity to help hold this space and to bring us all together. And it's because of you all and your participation and willingness to share your wisdom, your time, your work, your brilliance with us that we are able to come together in spaces like this. And we're supported by so many folks. We want to recognize the support that we receive from King County through Best Starts for Kids and from the Seattle Foundation. And we thank all the folks who participate through our learning community to help make this work happen. We have much gratitude to the panelists and the moderators. We acknowledge and thank our Community Advisory Committee and the planning team that helped produce the event. Sarah Tran of Sama Praxis, Communities Rise, and Cascadia Consulting Group, who work in partnership with COO's Learning Community. And we want to acknowledge that we're on this journey together. There's lots more learning we're going to be doing, and we want to reflect together as well. And so the next slide, and in your programs, you'll see opportunities for us to get together this Friday, September 24th from 10 to 11 a.m. We're going to be holding facilitated reflection sessions. And there will be a strategy session with People's Institute for Survival and Beyond later this fall. And we're already taking some of the things that we're learning and hearing to build out themes and continue a speaker series in 2022. So all this information is available within the program, and you can also reach out to our Communities of Opportunity team. So again, gratitude and thank you to you all for being here today. We're really also honored this afternoon to have Roger Fernandez with us. And Roger Fernandez is an enrolled member of the Lower Elwha S'Klallam tribe. He's a Native American artist, storyteller, and educator whose work focuses on cultures of Coast Salish tribes in Western Washington. So please join me in welcoming Roger.
Thank you very much for asking me to share some stories with you today. As a storyteller, I always remind people the stories are the message, and I'm just the messenger. So these stories I'm going to share with you are ancient. They're very old. No one even knows when they were first told. But our human ancestors, all of us, not just us native people, they understood the challenges of being alive in their time and the struggles sometimes that brought. And they would put in their stories their experience, and they would also put their resolution to some of the struggles they had. And when we hear the story, then we're being taught, not here, which is our modern processes, all go through the brain, I think, therefore I am. But they would oftentimes, the solution is in here somewhere. And so our ancestors understood this. And so as we look at our problems, study possible solutions, our ancestors would say, start here. You must start here first. And you must change something in here for this process to be undertaken successfully. So I'm going to share some stories with you, a couple stories that are very, very old. They come from different tribes of this region. In telling you this story, I'm going to teach you something. Storytelling is not just entertainment. It is teaching. That was the first thing I was taught as I began to learn this story. Storytelling is teaching. And there's another process where storytelling is healing, but I'm going to focus on the teaching part today. And so before you believe the story, the stories I'm going to tell, or any stories you're told by a teller or you hear, before you believe the story, you must believe in story. And so stories are a powerful human gift that we create these stories, or they come to us. We share them in a way of reaching, extending to each other, to learn from one another, to share with one another, to teach one another. And so I really believe they're a gift that we hold in our hands right now. We don't know what to do with them because most of our cultures, we've had those stories taken from us, but we can recover them. They can return. I was taught a long time ago, if you had a struggle in your life, a problem you couldn't solve, a struggle, and you worked on it, but you could not come up with an answer, what you would do then, and this is all around the world, you would go to your village elders, the old people in your village, and you would talk to them about your problem. You would sit down and talk with these old people, and you would explain whatever the problem was. Problem with your children, your work, your neighbor, your partner, whatever it was, you'd explain it to them. And when you were done explaining your problem, the elders would usually say, let me tell you a story. And then they would tell you a story that had nothing to do with your problem. You're talking about you and your neighbor. They're talking about a chipmunk and a grizzly bear. Why were they doing that? My teachers taught me this, and I want to share this with you. The elders knew you had the answer inside you already. Somewhere in here, you held the answer to your problem. What you needed was a way to help you find the answer, because that answer comes from you. It's the best answer there is. And so they would tell you the story to help you find that answer. The story was not the answer. The story was a way to help you find your answer. And so all the good work today, I've been in several sessions listening, all the good work that's being done, our ancestors recognize that good work has to be done. But how do you do it? How do you undertake it? So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm imagining you've come to me and said, I have a problem. Can you tell me, give me some advice? And I would say, let me tell you this story. So I'm going to tell you this story right now. This story is from the Stoklebuk people. Stoklebuk, you know who they are because you've heard their names. Oh, their name is not Stoklebuk in the modern times. In the modern time, they're called Snoqualmie. Stokwal is the moon. Snoqualmie means people of the moon. Stoklebuk means people of the moon. And so again, this comes from the Snoqualmie people. They live up in the mountains. They're closer to the sky than the rest of us. They're up in the mountains. And so they tell sky and mountain stories. So this is one of their ancient stories. They're mythic stories, the stories that come from a time we can't even imagine now. So this story goes like this. A long time ago, the world was very different than it is today. All of you, Even though we're separated and we're looking at each other through computer screens and phone screens, I want you to show me, where is the sky? Where is the sky? Even look at it and point to it. The sky is up there, isn't it? Well, an important question is, how high is the sky? How high is the sky? Well, as little kids will tell you, the sky is very high, or some of them say it's really high. So the sky is really high now, but in this story the Snoqualmie people tell, the sky was not way up there. It was dark and heavy and way down here. Here is where the sky was, right here, right above people's heads. And if people stood up straight, their heads would bump in the sky. So the people couldn't walk straight. They were always bent over, always walking around because they didn't want to bump their heads in the sky. That's how people walked then. The sky was so low upon them. But that's not fun walking like that. You keep bumping your head anyway, and you can't see where you're going. You can only see your feet beneath you, and your back starts to hurt. And so the people, after a while, they began to fight and argue, complaining, arguing, yelling at each other. Get out of my way. You almost made me bump my head in the sky. So the people were arguing and complaining all the time. And then after a while, the people began to fight. They were pushing each other, knocking each other down. Get out of my way. You're making me bump my head in the sky. And so the people were arguing and fighting all the time. Does that remind you of any time you might know? Well, anyway, people arguing and fighting all the time. There was a little girl in one of the Snoqualmie villages, and she said, this is not right. My people are arguing all the time, fighting all the time. I think it's because the sky is so dark and heavy upon us. There must be something I can do. And so she thought, and she thought, and she thought some more, and she had an idea. That little girl walked out of the house to the middle of the village, put her hands in the sky, and pushed up as hard as she could. And she felt the sky move a tiny bit. She said, if I call the other people out of their houses and we push a little bit more together, maybe we could push the sky up some more. And so she called the people out and told them her plan. But they were grumpy. That's a crazy idea. That'll never work. She said, oh, please try just once. They said, all right. So they all put their hands in the sky and they pushed up as hard as they could. And guess what? They felt the sky move a little bit more. Now, this was a very smart little girl. She said, I know if we invite all the native people around here to come to our village, the Muckleshoot people from Auburn, the Puyallup people from Tacoma, the Snohomish people from Everett, if we invite them all to come to our village and we all push on the sky together, maybe we can push the sky up, push it out of our way, push it where it belongs. And the people said, now, little girl, that's a really good idea. So all the tribes, all the villages were called up to the mountains of the Snoqualmie land, and they all went to that village. And the plan was explained to them, how we're going to push this guy up, push it up. And everyone agreed it was a good idea to work together to push up the sky. But someone in the back yelled out, hey, there's a big problem here. There's a really big problem. All the tribes here, we all speak different languages. And it's true, there are many languages spoken in Puget Sound in this region. So we all have different languages. We all have different words for push. So how can we work together? How can we push together? We have different languages. The people talked and argued and talked and thought, and they couldn't think of anything. Well, the people know, as I mentioned before, if you have a problem you can't solve, what do? You go to the elders. You go to the old people. And so the people went to this old man at the edge of the village, and they explained the problem. And the old man said, let me think about it for 2 days. Come back in 2 days and I will tell you. Well, they came back in 2 days. And the old man said, you shall use the word Yahau. Yahau mean work together. Yahau mean push together. When I say Yahau, we all say Yahau and push up on that heavy sky. And so this is called audience participation. Relatively painless. I want you to put your hands right here. And when I say Yahau, I want you to say Yahau and push up on that heavy sky. So here we go. Yahau. 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 Is that high enough? No, it's not. Let's get some big trees, cut them down, use them as big poles, and keep pushing up the sky with those poles. So here we go. Same word. Yahau. 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 We did it. We pushed this guy up to where it is today. We did it. We pushed this guy up to where it is today. The Snoqualmie people say, if we work together, we can do great things. We can even push up the sky. We can do the impossible. Well, the story goes on. Because many things, as the sky was being pushed up, many things were stuck in the sky as were being pushed up. 3 hunters and their dog were chasing 3 elk. They got stuck in the sky, lifted up. They became stars. Stars we call the Big Dipper today. And something else got stuck in the sky. The songs of the birds were stuck in the sky, and the birds couldn't sing anymore. And they were upset. The birds got together. They said, those crazy people, they pushed this guy without telling us. Now our songs are stuck up there. What are we going to do? Well, the bird talked, and they thought, and they argued and talked some more. Nobody could think of anything. Until finally, that bird that always talks, always bragging about himself, always talking about himself, you know who I'm talking about, Crow. Crow came up and said, hey, I can just fly up there and get our songs. And Crow put out his wings and he started to fly. He got halfway to the sky, and then he got tired and came back down and said, it's too high, we can't do it. Hawk came, and Hawk said, I am bigger than you, Crow. I can do it. And Hawk put out his wings and he started to fly, past where Crow went, 3/4 of the way there. Then Hawk got tired and came back down and said, Crow is right. It's too high, we can't do it. Well, around here, who's bigger than Crow and who's bigger than Hawk? Eagle, Quaingson. Eagle came out and said, hey, look at my wings. I was meant to fly that high. I can get up there, no problem. And she put out her wings and she started to fly, past where Crow went, past where Hawk went. She was almost to the sky world. And then she got tired and came back down and said, Crow is right, Hawk is right. It's too high, we can't do it. If I can't get up there, the biggest and strongest can't get up there. Nobody can. Well, out of the bushes, out of the grass came the littlest bird, little tiny wren. And little tiny wren came out and said, excuse me, I can get up there. And all the big bird laughed. They said, no way, little wren, you can't do it. I mean, come on, think about it. If us big, strong birds can't get up there, how can a dinky, puny little bird like you get anywhere? And little wren said, because I'm so little, I can get up there. If I can climb on Eagle's back and hold on, and she can carry me as high as she can, when she starts to come down, I'll fly the rest of the way and get the songs of the birds back. And all the birds said, little bird, that's a great idea. So little wren climbed on Eagle's back and held on. And Eagle started flying again, past where Crow went, past where Hawk went, almost to the sky world, started to come down. Little wren jumped off and flew the rest of the way and got the songs of the birds back. Little wren came back. But little wren remembered something. Little wren had all the songs, but little wren said, I remember what they said to me when I said I can get up there. They laughed at me. They made fun of me. So little wren said, Cousin Sparrow, here's a song. Cousin Thrush, here's a song. Cousin Robin, here's a song. And that is why all the little birds have beautiful little songs, don't they? But the big birds like Hawk and Crow and Eagle, they sing like this. And their song is not so beautiful. And that is all the story called Pushing Up the Sky, which goes in tandem with the birds fly to the sky to get their songs. So again, you've come to me and said, what can we do? How can we solve our problem? What we're struggling with, what we're looking at. And again, my job is to tell the story. Your job is to figure it out, because you would go and reflect upon the story. And ideally, you would hear the story enough times, 8 times, that you would carry that story in your heart. And that story's meanings would come to you. And I ask children, many children across this region, across the city, I tell this story often. I never get tired of telling it. What did this story teach you? And they say things like, well, work together. Work together. If we work together, we can do great things. We can push up the sky. Wonderful observation. How do we work together? And the story goes on. Again, I'm just going to allude to certain things. I'm not going to try to say this is the meaning of the story. The meaning of the story to Roger is different than the meaning of the story to everyone hearing it. That you might have different perspectives, different observations, different things that you found in the story that found you. And so one, though, that children always talk about is don't laugh at the little ones. Don't make fun of them. And did you notice in these two stories who solved the problems? The little girl and the little bird. Not a big hero, but the little one solved the problem. So oftentimes in our stories, it's the little ant, the little bird, the little girl, the little mouse, they solve the problem. To me, that suggests, to Roger, it suggests that sometimes our solutions, our answers, are not the big laws that we pass, the big budgets we pass, the big programs we create, but some little things that happen, that accumulate, and then we're able to make changes through the small things. And maybe that's the real way to make them. I don't know. But so there's another observation. And then people point out that we come together to work together. At one level, it makes sense. Let us work together. We share a common problem. We have resources we can share. We have ideas we can share. But because we're all different people, diversity comes into play. And so we all speak different languages, like the story alludes to, different languages. And so therefore, how do we bridge that? Different backgrounds, different generations, different genders, different all kinds of things, different incomes, different. There's so many things that make us different, but something must hold us together. And one teacher said, we must find one thought, one idea, one philosophy we all agree on. That's the word Yahau, to me, represents that. What is the one thing we all agree on? Everything else we might differ. Everything else we might have issues around discussing or even understanding from culture to culture. But we all agree on one thing. That is the word Yahau, that symbolizes, again, the way I've heard it and the way it's interpreted by many people. We need that one thing we agree upon. Many, many things will be different, but we can agree on one thing. So again, there's some really subtle, powerful sophistication in this story. The birds fly into the sky. Again, going to solve the problem. But who came up with the answer? The little bird. The little bird that said, I have an idea, a different idea. The man who taught me this version of the story said he wanted the story to make sure that it started with a little girl that had the idea. First, start with the problem. The sky's dark and heavy upon us. That could be oppression, laws that work against us, policies that work against us, oppression, or it could be depression. The individual, that I'm so sad, so lost, so hurt, so I can't move. I can't see where I'm going. And so again, how do we lift that up? Oppression or depression? Together with others. We must lift it off working with other people. Again, a very, very sophisticated, very, very subtle, but very powerful message. Work together to solve the problems. But there are problems, the story goes on. There are problems working together, but let us talk about that as well. So again, hopefully you understand the storytelling is what we call the teachings. My teacher said, my elder teacher, when I learned this about 30 or 40 years ago, said that they're called the teachings. Skodachi, the teachings. This is how we teach one another. So as you do the work you're doing, share the personal stories of struggle, of success, of happiness, of sadness. Share those personal stories. They are very powerful. You're teaching people when you tell your own personal story. I want to add, though, the traditional mythic stories that explain things, not to your brain, but somewhere in here that seeks knowledge and information and an answer. So I'm going to close with a really short story, another bird story. This story I learned from a native man who is in prison. I was up in Monroe doing storytelling with the native inmates in prison. And I was telling stories and asked if any of them, because about 40 native men, if any of them had a story they wanted to share. And a young man stood up, very young, in his late 20s, and said, I have a story I learned and I want to share it. And so he shared this story. It's from his people. He said, I'm from South Dakota. I'm Lakota. And I said, wonderful. Tell us the story you brought with you from your land, from your people. And so he's told this story. And in the story is a character named Iktomi. Iktomi is a spider in their legends, in their stories. Iktomi is a spider, and he does all kinds of things: good things, bad things, brave things, cowardly things. Anyway, he's a powerful figure in their stories. So Iktomi is a spider. And I'm going to tell you this story because, again, I want to teach you something. But my job is not to explain it or talk about it as much as I tend to sometimes, or give you answers, because I only know what my answers are in this story. I don't know what your answers might be. So here's the story that this young man in prison shared. A long time ago, Iktomi was out in the prairie in the tall grass. He was standing there in the middle of the big prairie looking up at the sky. He was watching the birds flying in the sky. The birds were flying up in the sky. Iktomi watched them for day after day after day because he wanted to fly like a bird. Well, Iktomi went to a little bird and said, little bird, how can I fly? I want to fly like you birds. And little bird said, it's really simple, Iktomi. All you got to is jump up and down, flap your arms really hard, and you can fly. Iktomi said, that's it. Bird said, that's it, Iktomi. And so Iktomi went and began to jump up and down, flapping his arms as hard as he could, but he couldn't fly. He did it again, a long time, flapping his arms, jumping up, but didn't fly. He did it all day long, and now he was exhausted. He said, that didn't work. The next day, Iktomi went to Eagle and said, Eagle, you're the greatest of all the flyers. I want to fly like you birds. How can I fly? Eagle said, it's very simple, Iktomi. All you got to do is jump up and down and flap your arms really hard. And Iktomi said, I already did that. It didn't work. Eagle said, oh, I forgot to mention something very important. You must believe you can do this thing. You must believe you can do it. When you believe you can do it, then you can do it. Iktomi said, thank you. Well, I believe I can do it. I know I can fly. I can do that. So Iktomi went to a big mountain, went to the edge of the mountain, big cliff. Oh, he looked down that cliff and it was like a mile down there. And way at the bottom of the cliff were all these big jagged rocks. He said, this is going to be crazy, but I could get killed, but I got to do it. So Iktomi jumped off that cliff and began to fall. He was falling and falling and falling and falling. He was screaming, I know I can do it. I know I believe. And he was flapping his arms and kicking his legs. He kept falling and falling and falling faster and faster, heading toward those big rocks, his doom. And he kept falling and falling. And just before he hit the rocks, Iktomi could fly. I'm doing it. I can fly. I can fly. And Iktomi flew into the sky, and the bird said, Iktomi, what are you flying for? Iktomi said, I wanted to fly, and Eagle showed me, so now I'm flying. The birds were happy. Come on, Iktomi, let's fly. Let's keep flying around together. So they're flying around up in the sky, doing the bird things that birds do, you know, loops and circles and dive bombing, and they were just having so much fun. And the children in the village below saw Iktomi. Look, Iktomi's up in the sky. He's flying with the birds. All you kids, come here. Let's look up. There's Iktomi. And all the children were so happy. Iktomi's flying. And they were yelling and screaming and laughing. Iktomi's flying. Iktomi's flying with the birds. A mother heard the children yelling and screaming, came out and said, what are you kids yelling and screaming about? They said, Iktomi's flying with the birds up in the sky. Iktomi's doing it. He's flying with the birds. And the mother said, that's crazy. Spiders can't fly. And she walked back in the house and slammed the door. When she slammed the door, Iktomi fell out of the sky and crashed to the ground. And that story is called Iktomi Learns to Fly. And I will share with you, since I explained my role as a storyteller, people say, what can we do about this thing? And I said, well, let me tell you a story. I have an intention behind the stories that I tell, but I'm not going to be directive. I'm not going to be saying, here's what the story means and here's what you must do. But in this story, Iktomi had to believe that he could do something, just as we must believe that we can change a culture. We can change a society. We can change a world. We can remake the world. We must believe that in here. And our challenge becomes, what if people don't believe? What if they don't believe what we believe? Will we let that change our idea, change our effort, change things? That, oh, people don't believe this anyway, so what's the point? Iktomi, when one person did not believe, Iktomi fell out of the sky. So again, belief is very important. To believe you can do something, that will drive you. That will give you the strength. That will give you the ability to do these things. But what happens when you meet people that don't believe? I don't believe you can do that. And so again, that's worth discussing. So our old ancient stories that come from all around the world, from North and South America, from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from everywhere, they're filled with wisdom and knowledge of our ancestors. We cannot forget that. In this new world we're in, we might even need it more than ever. To remember, within the stories they sent to us, there are messages of wisdom, of knowledge, of courage, of transformation and change. That's what makes a story a story. A story is different than a report. In a report, just tells you what's there. That's all there is. It will just tell you what has happened, what is there, numbers, words, lock down a report. But a story, in the beginning, something is one way in the beginning, and it's different at the end. Something changes, transformation. So as we talk about transforming our lives, the culture we live in, the world, remember, stories are about transformation, and they can help us. So again, I don't mean to lecture you anymore. I do this a lot. I'm a grandpa now. My teacher said, when you get to be a grandpa and an old man, an elder, you can talk to people like this all the time. You know what your problem is? Well, I don't want to do that. I just want to tell you some stories. Make sure that you look within the story for things that might help you. And the answer you come up with will be your own answer. So again, this gesture I use among the tribes here, we call it putting up our hands to people. The local tribes of Puget Sound, Western Washington, putting up your hands to people. Hello, goodbye, thank you, you're welcome. I was taught that it means many things. Symbolically, it means many things. One thing that it means, you lift me up, you lift me up, you lift up my heart, you make me happy. So I want to put up my hands to all of you who've dedicated your life to change the world in good ways for people, that they might lead better lives, and that we might all live better lives by doing that. I put up my hands to you because you've dedicated your life to working and helping other people. So again, I want to say Chatningsen in the Klallam language. Chatningsen means thank you, thank you. And if there's any way that I can support you, and I know Fern has the same belief, because Fern's a powerful storyteller and an artist and a plant knowledge person, many stories and knowledge about plants, that we both, if there's something we can do to help by telling stories, creating art, then that's what we want to offer to people. So again, I put my hands up to you. Chatningsen Siam, thank you, good people. Thank you, special people. Chatningsen Siam, and again, thank you for the good work that you do. And remember these stories, pushing up the sky. We work together, great things. We can do impossible things. Finding that word Yahut that keeps us together. These are the things I want to identify in the story. It's not that you need to, but this is what Roger. And then looking for the little ones, the little answers, the little ones that don't have PhDs, the little ones that don't have billions of dollars, the little ones that don't have, we look at them for their strength, what they have, not what they don't have, but what they do have. Look for the little ones, the little answers, the little solutions. And also belief. Belief comes from here. How do we get this, our belief that we want to change the world in a good way, out into the world? Tell stories and make art. Simple as that. So again, Chatningsen Siam, thank you so much. And I'll turn it back to the people that are putting on this wonderful event. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for inviting Fern as well to share Native stories as a way of framing some of the struggles we have. Because the stories say, yes, there are struggles, but we've worked around those things. We've overcome these things. And so thank you again, and I'll turn it back to the presenters. Thank you very much.
Roger, I want to lift my hands to you in gratitude for your stories, for Fern for sharing the stories to open our morning. And I've had the distinct joy of hearing some of your stories before, and every time it is an old story and it is a new story, because I learn, and there is so much that I think is a gift from our ancestors that we pass on through the stories. And I thank you for sharing them with us. I also want to extend my gratitude to all of the teachers who have come into this space to be with us today. You know, they say that teachers come into our lives at specific moments to share a lesson with us. And I hope that there was at least one teacher that you found today, whether that was a presenter, whether that was a moderator, whether that was someone else in a session with you, whether that was a voice inside of yourself that taught you something that you can take away and continue to bring into your work, to nourish your spirit, and to keep that spark, that fight, that joy going. I wish to extend my gratitude and lift my hands to the teachers of Black feminism, all of the ways that centering Black joy brings healing to each of us and to the world. I want to lift my hands in gratitude to the little girl in Roger's story and the little bird, the little wren, to our elders and to Mother Earth, to whom we owe everything that keeps us alive and thriving. And lastly, I want to raise my hands to each of you, to your lands your people, your communities, your ancestors, and those to come. Everything that we create because of our connection, our belief in each other. We need each other. We cannot afford to pretend like we do not. And we can find healing and joy and the possibility of a truly just, generative, not extractive, but generative world together. And we're making it happen every single day. You are making it happen every single day. And so for that, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. On behalf of COO and all of the folks who put in love and time and labor into organizing this event, thank you so much. This is only the beginning of a journey and the beginning of many stories and conversations. There will be a session tonight that is focused on art and story that I hope some of you will join us for, and another opportunity to gather on Friday morning. And then even more events to come that you can find on our website, which is in the chat. And so I hope that you found some joy and some nourishment from being together today. And I look forward to hopefully seeing many of you again soon, in person or in this virtual space. Either way, our spirits are connected, our work can be aligned, and together we will overcome. Thank you so much.